As we think about nitrogen management at Advanced Agrilytics, we always want to think about the environment and the mechanisms. And so with nitrogen, there's a lot that's going on in that field. So we want to start by thinking about how much nitrogen is required. And that's not just, well, okay, I've got this many bushels times this much grain removed. We also need to think about total vegetative uptake and what it's going to take to grow that overall factory that's going to fill that grain. Then from there, we also need to think about the organic matter within those specific areas of the field. For example, on top of a ridge or a knob, an eroded hillside where we have less organic matter, that is going to mineralize less nitrogen. So we know we actually want to increase that nitrogen rate to make sure that plant has everything that it needs so that growth is not being limited, especially in those zones early in the season, so that we can close that canopy quicker before we run out of moisture. We talked in depth about that in our last interview. And then, the third thing is as we move through those environments, thinking about where nitrogen is being lost from. Those high organic matter areas in the lower parts of the field generally are some of our most productive regions as long as we don't get too much water. If those areas are staying saturated, we're having root death, we're having uh, nitrate loss either through leaching or denitrification. And so we need to take those factors into consideration as well. It's not just looking at a soil map or a yield map and saying, okay, we're going to base it off of that. There's all these different factors that we really need to get much more precise than what those regions are telling us, and really think through the environment and what is happening to the nitrogen that we're applying, and what our goal is with that as well. So we've got a spatial component that we think about. We've got a temporal component as we think about when that nitrogen's taken up across the landscape. So it's quite a few pieces to consider, but when it's done right, it can really make a difference, and we can have uniform green fields all the way through grain fill where we're not seeing zones of high in loss or zones where we're running short.